Guys, welcome. Dr. Isabella Wentz here. Today is already, can't believe it, but it's already day 9 of the Thyroid Secret. So today we're sharing some success stories from people who've taken back their health and have some great tips to share with you. So if this is your first time joining me, or maybe this is your 9th time joining me, as this is the 9th Facebook Live Q&A session, if you could just say hello and let me know that you're here, let me know where you're from. Let me know if the audio is working as well, because every now and then I have talked to myself for some time before I figured out that whether the audio is working or not. So for those of you that I haven't met yet, I'm Dr. Isabella Wentz. I am a clinical pharmacist by training, and I became a Hashimoto's expert, thyroid expert / human guinea pig after almost losing a decade of my life because of debilitating fatigue due to an undiagnosed thyroid disorder. And then, of course, that fatigue continued even when I got my proper diagnosis, because I was just told to take thyroid medications, which as a pharmacist, I'm all for medications, but at the same time, they didn't really help get rid of my symptoms, and they didn't get to the underlying root cause of my condition. And so I've sort of set out to change how thyroid disorders are treated after I got my own health back, and I'm the creator of the Thyroid Secret. I am the New York Times bestselling author of Hashimoto's The Root Cause, which you could see behind me, as well as the author of the upcoming book called Hashimoto's Protocol, which you can see behind me as well. Looks like we've got a few people joining here live. We have Alexis. So she says she's hungry all the time. So protein, you may not be getting enough fat in your diet. So that would be something I would be looking for, or perhaps doing some amino acids, or looking at potentially whether or not you might have blood sugar issues. Then I have Mary from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Julie says it works. Great to hear that. Thanks. Patty also says that she can hear me. Awesome. Michelle from Birmingham. Christy from Calgary. I love Calgary. I got to visit there. My sister-in-law lives there. Penny from Waterloo. West Texas is in the house. Hello. Hello, Magdalena. Gina, hello again. Sandy from Colorado. Helen. Melissa, hello, Melissa from California. Susan from Kansas. Andrea, nice to see you here again. She says, thank you so much for everything you've done, and I'll miss this special time. We'll have to definitely do more Facebook Lives. You guys definitely let me know what topics you have in mind. Some of the topics I have I thought about were some of the most helpful supplements for thyroid disease, and just keep me posted in the comments on what you would want me to do future Facebook Lives on. I will be taking, in full disclosure, lots of naps after this Thyroid Secret release. So I will be off of Facebook Live for a while. I probably will not be doing my hair or getting out of yoga pants and ponytails for some time. But today is the last day of the Thyroid Secret. So tonight's episode, we're sharing some success stories. If you haven't watched it, I have a link here for you guys in the description of the Facebook Live event, tinyurl.com, TTSE9. You'll be able to watch it there. And then I also have a opportunity for you guys, if you wanted to own the entire Thyroid Secret, there's a link for you too, tinyurl.com, TTS Gold. And this is something that we're offering a special discounted price until tomorrow at 11:59 Eastern, if I can get it right. And you can get these wonderful DVD set or a digital version. And then we have options for you guys to get transcript books and just everything transcribed. So hope that you'll check it out and see if that's something that you want to make part of your forever collection. Because again, the episode 9 is only going to be available until tomorrow, and that will conclude our free worldwide screening of the Thyroid Secrets, and allow us all to take, me and the whole team, to take some much needed rest and get a nap in, and maybe some relaxation time. So Stephanie, Grace is saying on episode 9, so inspiring. Cindy from Manitoba. Carrie is just starting this journey. Thank you so much for the 9-day seminar. It's so great to have you here, Carrie. It's really nice when you can get all this information at the very beginning of your journey, because I know for myself it took me, oh man, like how many years? Wow. Yeah, 2009 until 2013 is when I actually recovered my health, the beginning of 2013. And then I was taking notes all along, and I just like scrambled and put together the Hashimoto's Root Cause book in May of 2013. And it's gone through a series of edits, of course, and it's now become a surprise New York Times bestseller because so many people were able to use the strategies that I did to recover their health, and just really showed that this was a really big need for lifestyle changes for Hashimoto's and figuring out what the root cause is. Michelle from Southeast Georgia. Hello, Margot. Hello, Elodia. What a pretty name from Austin. Stephanie from Pittsburgh. Hello from Houston to Linda. Leah from Australia. Emily, thank you so much for this. I want to write a book too, like you did. How do you go about getting a book published? Oh, that's a great question. And I highly encourage you guys to do that and write about your health journeys. One of the ways that you can get a book published is through self-publishing. And there is a company called Self-Publishing School that helps you do that. There's a wonderful young man who just, I don't know, I think he's like 23 or something, maybe 25. He just inspires me. His name's Chandler, that heads up the self-publishing school, and he teaches you how to get your book published and together. And then, of course, there's the option of going through a publisher. I have a wonderful publisher, Harper One, that's publishing Hashimoto's Protocol on March 28th. But, you know, definitely don't let anything stop you. People initially told me that, you know, they didn't want to publish my first book because they thought it was, you know, because, what were those objections? Because I didn't have a platform, or because I was an unknown author, or some people thought that because I was a pharmacist and not an MD that, you know, for some reason I wasn't going to be able to help people, which is silly because you don't have to have a degree to help people. You just have to have things that can help them, right? And I got a lot of objections, and you know, once I put it out there and people found that it was helping them, now I have a lot of people that are very interested in working with me to get the work published. So for my advice to you would be, write what's in your heart and share as much helpful information that you can to help other people. And that, you know, that's what matters the most. And I know it's, you know, it doesn't matter if you have people behind you or whatever. You can, as long as it's in your heart and as long as it's helpful to people, people will pick up on it. Let's see here. You guys are saying hello. Ginger from Minnesota. Hello, Ginger. Rosa, sad for the last day. I love the series. I'm so glad to hear that. The series has been really, really great. Laferdine from Switzerland. Hello, Europe. And just as a reminder, all of our packages do ship to Europe, Australia, the UK, Canada. So we did arrange that with our distributor, so that you guys can get the full packages. And of course, it will take a little bit longer to ship there, but so we're giving you guys also digital access when you order a physical package. And you can do either or. Paula from United Kingdom. Elodia says, sad that I didn't have time to watch this. So we do have a few different packages with options. If you wanted to own the series, then you could watch it on your own time. It could be really helpful. And if you could jump on to episode 9 right now and go watch it right now. Pamela says, hello from Washington. Love all your Facebook Live. Thank you. Thank you so much for all you do. I appreciate that. Carrie says, I'll miss seeing you each night. I'll miss you guys too. So we'll have to have more date nights after we get some rest after the Thyroid Secrets. Angela says, I live in yoga pants. Yeah, guilty here too. They're so comfortable, right? Plus, in case you ever want to work out, like, you're perfectly dressed. So that's my excuse. Plus, I live in Boulder, which is yoga pants central. Andrea says, I finally put sugar away and I started stevia. Also got white tea and put coffee away. Awesome to see you taking action. Let's see. Leslie says, I don't have much of an appetite. Is that normal with hypo yet overweight? Yep, absolutely. So your metabolism is going to be slowed down. And unfortunately, you could be eating very, very little and your metabolism is so slow that you'll still be gaining weight. Jenna says, what can we do to get a change among mainstream medicine where doctors believe ferritin levels should be over 50, TSH should be below 2, and believe in candida overgrowth? Not everybody can afford functional medicine, and these are things that regular doctors can know. Really, guys, it's through the way that you change the face of medicine is through requesting these things from your doctors and then being the proof too. So it's kind of a patient-centered movement when you start with this, and let them know that, hey, this is a concern. I recently visited a doctor in Boulder, and this was for an unrelated issue. I wanted to have, a breast exam, and it was a traditional doctor, and I was very, very pleased that the doctor's wife actually had Hashimoto's, and she basically convinced him that there was much more to Hashimoto's than just TSH and Synthroid. And so it's nice to see where doctors maybe have that personal connection, whether it's through friend, family member, or patient who actually has had different results. And sometimes it just takes one person to get that doctor to kind of look and say, yeah, maybe you're onto something. And so if you guys, as you're going gluten-free, as you're making these changes, take your labs, get your doctor to draw your labs and say, one thing you could say is like, hey doctor, I've heard this stuff works. Are you willing to test me and help me, do this little experimentation? And I know a lot of doctors are really willing to go at it from that end, because at the end, a lot of them are curious scientists. Michelle wants to know, what are the best exercises to not overexert the adrenals? So yoga, Pilates are some of the best ones for that, and then some light weightlifting. If you're going to do, like marathon training and running, that stuff can actually make your adrenals worse. Let's see. Jessica wants to know, is the discount through tomorrow at midnight, or does it end tonight at midnight? So it ends tomorrow, March 10th at 11:59 Eastern, which is actually, which is actually earlier in different time zones. So you might as well take advantage of it now, just so that you don't miss out. It's going to be, all the packages are half off until the end of the day. Dolan says, thanks for you and your team for everything. Thank you so much. Valerie, thank you for all your help. I really appreciate it. Heather wants to know, is there a way to shrink a smooth non-nodular thyroid back to a regular size? Low-level laser therapy may be able to do that. Michelle says, just in the last month, I've had a lot of joint pain and rash. I've been on the AIP protocol for a while now. Could it be a new food sensitivity? I'm doing everything correctly, but I'm having setbacks. Just last month. So joint pain and rash. So one of the things I would look at, Michelle, would be looking at potential parasites within your body. Whenever I see somebody that hits a plateau on the autoimmune paleo protocol or begins to lose more foods, that's going to be usually an indication for me that there's a potential infection within your body. Think you can't get me straightened out. Trusting God to complete my journey. I appreciate all your hard work. Thanks for saying that, Mary. And sometimes it does take faith. Tammy says, thank you so much for all this information. I've been struggling with Hashimoto's. I'm going to use everything to regain my health. You're a blessing. Thank you. Kevin says, thank you from Seattle. Hello. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yes, Megan wants to know, what gadget did you speak about during an earlier live show? Headband for anxiety or stress or something. So this is called the Muse headband. It's M-U-S-E, and you wear it across your forehead, and you look a little bit silly with it on, but it's really great at sensing your brain waves, and it kind of helps to put you in a more of a relaxed mood and trains your brain not to be so overactive. And I know a lot of us, when we have thyroid disease, we can become overactive, and sometimes it's something that's been with us, or sometimes it's caused by thyroid hormone excess, and this can get that imbalance. Shauna says, really encouraging. Really enjoyed the episode. So encouraging to see these success stories as I start my journey to heal. Thank you so much for the series and your passion to help us. I can't thank you enough. I appreciate that. Lily wants to know, how much should we be supplementing with B12? So B12, you want to do 5,000 micrograms sublingually every day if you have deficiency. Methylcobalamin is usually the best version for that because it gets properly activated in the body. And doing it under the tongue can be very, very helpful for absorption. This is something that, if you're testing your B12 levels, if you are testing under 7, actually set under 7 or 600, that would be a potential sign for me of a deficiency. Under 200 or under 100 is considered a deficiency by traditional medicine, but we've seen symptoms even with those amounts. Let's see, Allison. She says, I want to thank you so much for the doctor's list that we received in the email. So thanks so much. You guys be on the lookout for that. Some of you guys may have already received it, and some of you will receive it in about probably 2 weeks or so. So we'll be sending that out. It's after we don't want to distract you from watching the episodes, but after you sign up for watching all the episodes, we're going to give you a little bit of time to absorb it, and then send you the information on the doctor's list. Rita says, my feet are swollen. What could be causing this? I'm at my wit's end. It could be a few different things. One of the things I would look at is whether or not you're retaining water in your adrenals. So sometimes water retention can stem from adrenal issues. Michelle says, this has been so great and validating. I'm so happy to hear that. Chris from Adelaide, South Australia, hello. She says, your webinar has been invaluable and extraordinary. So great to hear that. I really, really appreciate that. Lodia says affordability is a major problem. I agree. And that's why I've put out the documentary series and then my books, The Root Cause and Hashimoto's Protocol, so that you guys can educate yourself and really take charge of the things that you can take charge of to reduce your dependency on the medical system. For example, with foods, you could do a food sensitivity test. That's a few $100s that is not covered on insurance. Or you could get rid of the most common aggravated foods for free and then see how your body responds. So these are some strategies that we try to incorporate for you. You can do traditional doctor testing for B12, vitamin D levels, for your ferritin levels, and then we've given you resources throughout the episodes on what to do if you have low levels of those. So this is a way to kind of hack the system. Low-dose naltrexone is actually very, very inexpensive, as is natural desiccated thyroid hormone. You can get each of them for probably less than $1 or $2 a day if you just make sure you find the right kind of person to prescribe it for you. Generally, some of the doctors that prescribe it may be covered on insurance. Some of them may not be. But you can just have one visit with them, and then some of them require monthly follow-ups, others yearly follow-ups, others every 3 months. It just depends on the doctor, what they're comfortable with. But this is something that can be a very, very inexpensive way to maintain your health when you use these kind of medications. And then, diet, you're really in charge of that. People are like, oh, paleo diet is expensive and whatnot. But when you're eating real food, you're really saving money in the future, because you're saving money on healthcare costs, you're saving money on feeling bad, you're saving money on potentially, missing out of work or, missing out on projects because you're not feeling well. So it's really an investment into yourself. And the goal of the series and my books is to give you all the information that you need so you could take back your health and empower yourself, and so that you can reduce your dependency on the medical system. Because doctors should be there to guide you, but like Dr. Mark Mendel, one of the LDN pharmacists I interviewed, said, the responsibility of healing actually lies primarily with the patients. And I think once you guys realize that it's your body doing the healing and your changes that are making the healing happen, you'll realize that doctors, even though they may be expensive, are an investment for your future healing. And the rest is up to you. And so they're there to guide you. They're not there to save you. And you can also, you really, there's this one saying that I love, and I always look at it, the cavalry's not coming. It's like you have to take charge of your own health. And I don't say this to discourage you, but I really say this to actually encourage you to trust in yourself and trust in your ability to heal and recover your health and in your power, because it's within you, it's within your body, and that's something that you can absolutely do once you have the right information, right? I know, let me see if I could plug this better. I know so many, we had a little interruption here. I know so many of us would be doing things differently had we known. Like I know personally, I would not be eating all the dairy I used to eat, even though I never liked it until I saw all those commercials about why I needed to eat dairy. It was like I was overriding my own intuition and my own body's messages of giving me stomach aches and reflux when I was eating dairy. And had I known all of these things, and I know you guys as well, is once you learn all these things, you'll be able to make different decisions and different choices. Let's see here. Getting some wonderful questions from you guys. And one thing I want to ask you is, you guys have been asking a lot of great questions. I want to ask you a couple of questions. One of them is, what have been your biggest takeaways and biggest aha moments from the documentary series? And I'd love to hear that from you, because there might be something that you're saying that was a big breakthrough for you that maybe somebody else didn't catch. Because we had a lot of strategies within the series. So if you guys go ahead and write in what was your biggest aha moment. All right. Anju says, good evening. Miranda says, your work has been game-changing for me. Finally, validation of all the random symptoms since childhood. Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad that you're here. Jason wants to know, how long after B1 should you feel different? About 3 to 5 days. Nicole says, I'm purchased the silver package. I'm so excited to have this resource. I'm so excited for you, Nicole. So excited to see all the healing that you're going to have. Let's see here. Linda asks, is the information and root cause included in Hashimoto's protocol? So the root cause and the Hashimoto's protocol are both meant to be standalone books, but they do complement each other really, really well. And the difference is the Hashimoto's root cause has a lot of research on how I got my health back and a lot of different strategies, whereas the Hashimoto's protocol has a plan for you on what you need to do to take back your health. If I were to get one right now for you with a limited budget, I would start with the Hashimoto's protocol to work through those steps for you. And then if you still need additional guidance, the root cause will have some additional strategies in there, because it's kind of like a bit of an encyclopedia of Hashimoto's. Let's see. Denise says, hello. Maggie says, my B12 is very high. What should I do about it? Is it bad? Should I take a B complex? So this could be from supplements you're already taking, and you likely don't need an additional supplement. Kitty says, is it possible to buy the package in Brazil? It is, so we're sending everything to Brazil. Best supplements, Stacy wants to know, to help with adrenal fatigue. I really like the Daily Stress Formula by Pure Encapsulations. If you go to Thyroid Pharmacist under supplements, you'll be able to see some of the favorite supplements I recommend. Can Hashis cause high blood pressure and a high heart rate? Yeah, so that could be a possibility. And then if you have a fever, that's an indication that you may actually have a low-grade chronic infection and sometimes a viral infection, so I'd recommend that. Will taking B12 cause Epstein-Barr virus to flourish? No, it could actually be helpful in helping you overcome. Mary says, I get times when I get rushes of a medication which create fear and anxiety and spike my blood sugar and heart rate. Do you know what causes it? So that could be basically an adrenal reaction to you, or it could be an adverse reaction to the medication. And you could pre-order Hashimoto's protocol at thyroidpharmacist.com/protocol. It comes out on March 28th, and I'm very excited about that, to share that with you guys. Lori says, I'm taking LDN. My thyroid antibodies are almost normal. Congratulations. Rosa's giving some great advice. Thank you so much for that. Robin says, I've been using over-the-counter NDT. I feel better. My numbers are good. My doctor would not give optimum amount, so I took my health into my own hands. How do you feel about OTC? For me, I recommend doing prescription whenever you can because it's going to be cleaner and it's going to be, more generally cleaner, more effective, and the dosage is going to be better tailored. Whereas a lot of the OTC ones, we're not quite sure how much is in there, and it's hard to have a stable dosing of it. So that's my recommendation is to try to do your best with somebody that can help you manage it as well. Just because hormones and thyroid hormones are Goldilocks hormones. You don't want too little, you don't want too much, and so I oftentimes recommend working with a doctor or a pharmacist that can help you get regulated on a proper dosing. What do you think of the protocol of high doses of vitamin D for Hashimoto's? So I'll tell you, and I don't know what you consider high vitamin D, but I like to see my clients around 60 to 80 of vitamin D because those seem to be the target areas for the majority of my ladies that go into remission, is I see those high levels of vitamin D. Linda says, can your eyebrows grow back after losing them from hypothyroid? I have seen them grow back in many cases. One of the things that seems to help, and it's kind of odd, but it's putting castor oil on them. So I'd love to see if you could try that. Jeannie says, you're wonderful. Thank you so much. Where do we get Megaspore Biotics? Do you take them? I do take them. You can get them if you go to, we sent out an email about them this morning as part of giving away as a raffle. We have a link in there for that, and you can order them through your practitioner. Mary's aha moment was, there's a hope to stop the anxiety I'm having. Yes, you don't have to live with it. Cindy wants to know, can you post the link to order the package from Canada? So if you go to tinyurl.com TTS Gold, you'll be able to purchase from there. So anywhere in the world we're shipping the Thyroid Secret, which I'm really excited about because I know that people everywhere need this information, not just in the US. And I know, having lived in Europe, that this information is not as readily available. Okay. Let's see. Lori says no gluten is very important, in my opinion, as is no dairy. That's right. Gina says, I didn't know that magnesium should be avoided with thyroid meds. Yep, 4 hours or so. Denise says no gluten or dairy. Ellen wants to know, I know my thyroid medication is cheap, so if you know how to cure this, then doctors know how to cure this. Why don't they? Oh, yeah, so this is the thing. Most doctors don't know this information. So I'm a trained pharmacist, and when I was going through pharmacy school, I never learned that natural desiccated thyroid hormones may work better, and I never learned that selenium could be a factor in causing thyroid disease. And I also never learned that chronic infections could cause thyroid disease, or that the gluten-free diet, dairy-free diet would help it, where all of this information is tried and tested. I've tested it out with over thousands of people personally, and I've also seen this with my colleagues have tested it with thousands of people, and before even I started doing things, there were people getting better using these same methods. But this is not something that's taught in medical schools. This is not taught in pharmacy school. This is not taught in nursing school. So that's why I created the Thyroid Secret, and then I write my books and my blog because I decided this information needed to be out there. From a pharmacist perspective, there are some people in natural medicine that do have training in these protocols, but a lot of times, unfortunately, for whatever reason, people may not find some natural medicine practitioners. They may not find them as credible, which of course is a myth, or they may not be able to see them. They're not licensed in every state. So this is a potential barrier. So I wanted to get this information out there as a pharmacist to let people know that this actually does work. And no, we don't learn it in conventional medical schools, but it actually can really be dramatically life-changing and very, very helpful for people. So I'm very, very excited to share that with you guys. Let's see, other questions. Elizabeth wants to know, do you recommend taking Wobenzyme with Gut Healing Bundle? So you can either do Wobenzyme or systemic enzymes. It's actually very, very similar ingredients. And I've tried to like pick a favorite, but it's hard to like pick a favorite child. I've seen both very effectively work in people with Hashimoto's. So some of the things I've seen, and we discussed Wobenzyme in episode 8, were reduction in thyroid antibodies and reduction in food sensitivities. Marcy wants to know, how long after I start integrating T3 should I start feeling better? It depends. Usually some people will start feeling better right away. Other people might take a couple of weeks. Maria says, I'm frozen. Do any of you guys see me frozen? Live feed. Looks like we're having some issues here. The internet doesn't seem to like me today. Let's see what we can do about that. Okay. Thanks if you guys keep putting in your questions. I'm going to see if we can do something here to help with the live feed component, work a little bit better. Frozen, let's see. Okay, so I think I'm back now. Okay, thanks. My husband just let me know that I'm back, so I'm glad to hear that. Majana wants to know, I ordered your books and series, but I'm confused about iodine. Should I completely avoid it? So generally it's a Goldilocks nutrient, so somewhere in like a multivitamin dosage, 200 micrograms is going to be fine for most people and may be beneficial. But when we go above 500 micrograms, it can be problematic. Having low vitamin D, is that associated? It is. So low vitamin D levels are associated with all kinds of autoimmune conditions and autoimmune thyroid for sure. Doctors not informing us of real choice of treatments to keep ourselves with all the health issues involved with these medical conditions. So, and doctors, my mom is a doctor, and I have a lot of great friends that are doctors, and they really want to help people. That's why they become doctors. But at the same time, they only know what they know. And I know that if they knew this information, and I've actually met plenty of doctors that said, wow, once I learned about functional medicine, once I learned that lifestyle changes can actually reverse disease, I've never gone back. And this was my case as well. So I was working as a public health consulting pharmacist, and I was also working for a short time in pharmaceutical sales for a little bit less than a year. And I truly believed in what I did, and everybody that I worked with, in pharmaceutical sales, in consulting, in the pharmacy, in the medical clinics, everybody really cared about people and wanted to help them. All the social workers I worked with wanted to help people, but we just were taught that these things don't work. And I'm living proof, and thousands of my clients and readers and all of you guys are living proof that, oh, holy cow, like when you start doing these things, they actually work. And so I'm really glad, it was important for me to come out with episode 8 and to have all of these wonderful patient stories that took back their health, because, we want to show you proof that it's not just like, I kind of laugh, and, of course, a lot of the stuff that's covered in the series, not to sound like I'm the smartest person in the world, but I've been working with Hashimoto's for quite some time now, and I've worked with a lot of people and done a lot of research, have written a couple of books on it, so I do know quite a bit about Hashimoto's, and I didn't want to be the only crazy lady that was saying that this condition was reversible and that thyroid disease was reversible. And so I wanted to come together with over 100 experts and over 60 patients who took back their health to kind of show you guys that, like, I'm not the only crazy person. Like, this is happening every day. People are healing on a daily basis with these changes. And to be honest with you, through the process, I also learned some things that I personally did not know. And so that's why I'm really excited about sharing the Thyroid Secret with you and the Gold package, which will give you guys an opportunity to go through some of these interviews that have some more like advanced information if you're a big health nerd like I am. And elevated white blood cells associated with Hashimoto's. White blood cells that are elevated could be associated with having an infection. Valerie, once you're in remission, does your thyroid return to normal size and function? So this is actually a really great question, and this is a section in my book, Hashimoto's Protocol. There's a pathway to healing where we talk about what are the steps to healing. And the first step is going to be going through and reversing your symptoms. So we're going to do this by optimizing your thyroid hormones, and we're going to do this by optimizing your nutrients, changing up your diet. And then that's going to help us also get you into remission. There might be other things you need to take on to get into remission, like addressing toxins and infections. And so that's step 2. And then the third step is addressing, and in some cases, that can help you normalize your thyroid gland size, structure, and even function, where you can produce your own thyroid hormones anymore. But if not, we have step 3 interventions where we really look at, okay, what are some interventions that can help normalize the thyroid size or regenerate thyroid tissue? And low-level laser therapy, or LLLT, so I don't have to say the whole tongue twister, is one of those interventions that can help with both. Alaskan said, I saw episode 8 and 9, the whole series. It's shining with love. Thank you so much. Oh, thanks so much for saying that. My aha moment, symptoms that seemed off to me but doctors ignored were actually issues. Fatigue, 60 to 80 blood pressure, yep. Low body temperature and cold all the time, scalloped tongue, low vitamin D, and prescription. Vitamin D does not move my numbers because oftentimes we need D3. Positive Epstein-Barr virus. Yeah, these are all these things that it's amazing because when I put out my book, Hashimoto's The Root Cause, I wrote about my personal story and my journey. And, the biggest surprising thing for me was how many people had the same exact story that I did. And it's like, I was told after I had the Epstein-Barr virus that like, oh, well, I don't know why you're tired. You must be depressed. And then, oh, your anxiety's got nothing to do with your thyroid, and your hair loss isn't really thyroid related. And just this whole, your gut symptoms, those aren't related. And so many people have like the same exact story. Like you could put them in any city, in any country in the world, in any kind of profession, and we all kind of go through that same trajectory. And, conventional medicine hasn't caught on. We all have low vitamin D levels. We oftentimes have low ferritin levels. Some of us have low B12 levels. All of us are selenium deficient, and most of us are going to have gut infections. We're going to have some toxins on board. And like 90% of us will be gluten sensitive, and we'll feel significantly better getting off of these things. And this, my friends, is public health, and this is looking at population health. So this is part of the training I undertook as a consulting pharmacist working in public health, is looking at like what are the things that help a large group of people. And so these are all the things that I share in Hashimoto's Protocol and the Thyroid Secret, where, wow, these are tremendously helpful patterns and things we could see that, wow, so many of us are gluten sensitive. And so I'm really, really glad to get this information out to you guys so you can know what to start with and what can benefit you. Uh-oh, looks like I'm frozen on and off. I'm not having the best internet connection. Not frozen. All right, so let's see. When he said, I'm so thankful for the series. Oh, thanks for saying that. Thank you for all the information. Yay. Is there a good chance of remission if you have a lower antibody count? It started with severe digestive issues. Yeah, so the lower the antibodies, the less aggressive the attack. So that's usually a good indication. Shelby says, just order the gold package, woohoo. I'm so excited for you, so I can't wait for you to get it and unpack it. So it's quite amazing. It's very high quality. I'm really excited for you to take back your health and learn as much as you can. Is there a B vitamin you recommend? B complex by pure encapsulations? I have been gluten-free and soy-free for almost 2 years, and now after watching the Thyroid Secret, I've remembered dairy. I'm experiencing headaches and sour acid stomach upsets. Could this just be a temporary reaction of my body? So what I think, maybe you got off of dairy and now you're having a weird reaction. So that sounds maybe like withdrawal. That can sometimes happen. But I'm not quite sure exactly what you're asking. So if you can get a chance to chat in again to clarify, or I would recommend that you ask your healthcare practitioner, because I don't want to give you the wrong answer if that's not what you're asking. Brett Myers, how can you go gluten-free when you can't go out to eat? I watched a doctor show and they found that all of them had traces of gluten except for one. There's a supplement called the Gluten Dairy Digest by Pure Encapsulations that can be helpful for minimizing your exposure to gluten, digesting it. I do go out to eat quite frequently, I would say once a week or so. And there's certain foods that are going to be naturally gluten-free. And people with Hashimoto's, they don't necessarily have celiac disease. Up to 15% of them do, but most of us do not. And so it's basically a dose response, where a person with celiac disease, like teeny tiny amounts of gluten are going to cause them a problem, where a person with Hashimoto's, it's like they have a slightly better threshold of that. So of course you want to do your best to avoid it, but in a lot of times, one of my goals is to give you guys a life that's not crazy, and just being able to be free in the world and feel good in the world, and just knowing what works for you and what doesn't. So some of the things that you can get that are going to be naturally gluten-free are going to be things like a Cobb salad, where you ask for it to be made gluten and dairy-free, so like no croutons and no cheese in it, or a Greek salad, again, with no cheese. And this can be very helpful. Use olive oil and lemon as a dressing. And a lot of these foods are naturally gluten-free. If you can get boiled eggs, if you're not sensitive to them, as a protein side. And then also potentially getting grilled chicken can be very helpful. One of the things they can do is they can put, in dire situations, foil around the food that they're grilling for you. Or some places will have a dedicated gluten-free kind of burner. I don't like to use foil typically too much, because there's some potential with aluminum building up in the body, but it's kind of the thing is, like, you don't want to go crazy, right? So you just want to do things for your body that make you feel better. Kathleen, hearing loss related to thyroid problems. 5 years, my problem got worse. Potentially you can, and there seems to be a connection between MTHFR, and there may be some potential to help that by addressing the MTHFR gene mutation. Let's see. Questions here. Stephanie, what to do if your body won't stop gaining weight? I've changed meds, going gluten-free. I had Epstein-Barr at 11, still positive results. So one of the things that could be setting your body in this, basically what I think about thyroid disease is your body thinks that it's not safe, and for whatever reason it's trying to hold on to this weight and slow down your metabolism to protect you. Chronic infections can also slow down your metabolism, and so that might be a potential target for you, is to treat that infection and potentially address the health of your gut. Lori wants to know, what was my root cause? And this is kind of, I guess, to say, not to be deceiving is not a good word, but the word root cause. So a person might have just one root cause, or they might have multiple root causes. So for some people, it might just be gluten sensitivity. For another person, it might be that, and as well as different infections. Really, in all reality, I think the root cause of thyroid disease is going to be your body feeling like it's unsafe. In every single case, is for whatever reason, it's going to be either a food sensitivity, a nutrient deficiency, chronic infections, impaired stress response, toxins, and a leaky gut. All of these different things can make your body feel unsafe, and could be potential root causes and contribute to that. So as far as I go, was not an easy case. So there are some people who I admire, and dear friends of mine and clients of mine who went off gluten, and they no longer had Hashimoto's, or they went dairy free, or they went autoimmune paleo, or, started one supplement or, started systemic enzymes and they no longer had Hashimoto's. So I was not one of those cases, and I'm more of a complicated case where I had quite a few different things that were out of balance in my body, and it was the nutrient deficiency. So I was deficient in selenium, thiamine, ferritin, you pretty much, you name it, I was deficient in it. I had toxins, multiple toxins in my body, copper and mercury being two of them. Copper is something that I believe I have a genetic mutation that has me accumulating it. So it's something that I have to constantly keep in balance and take kind of inventory of that to make sure that it's not building up in my body. I have some genetic mutations that prevent me from getting rid of toxins very well. I'm THFR homozygous, so I have 2 copies of that gene that prevents me from getting rid of toxins. And so I have to kind of keep that in check because my body just likes to, my body's a bit of a hoarder when it comes to toxins. And then I had 4 infections in the gut. So I had SIBO, yeast overgrowth, H. pylori, and blastocystis hominis. And then, let's see, I also had a lot of trauma in my life. So that was another big thing that I had to address and rebalance. And so it wasn't, definitely wasn't like a switch where I just got better. It was like a progressive journey when I was able to, and Epstein-Barr virus too, of course. So I think that played a significant role in triggering my I would say not triggering, but exacerbating my thyroid condition. Probably the initial triggering factor for me was I was exposed to Chernobyl when I was age 4, and that's probably when that's where a lot of my symptoms started, and I had some abnormal thyroid swelling when I was, a teenager and whatnot. My mom always tried to keep an eye on it, but then various things like the Epstein-Barr virus and the irritable bowel syndrome kind of like made it worse, and were my, there's antecedents and triggers and exacerbating factors. So these all kind of came and played a role in making me, making my own body feel unsafe and attacking myself. So basically, hopefully that doesn't sound discouraging to you guys, but it's kind of the way of the wound. And I was very discouraged at first, but it's the way of the wounded healer. Is I feel like I went through all of this so that I could learn on my own body and share with you guys and my clients and my readers on the various ways you can get better and what things you could do to take back your health. And for some people, it might just be 1 thing, 2 things, 3 things. For others, it might be a whole bunch of different layers of an onion that they have to peel back. And the good news is that once you start peeling back these layers, is you start recovering bits and pieces of who you truly are as a person. So you start shedding the anxiety, shedding the weight, shedding the fatigue. Your hair stops shedding, right? You get back to who you're truly meant to be. And then food sensitivities were another thing that I had, so gluten and dairy. And then I also avoid nuts because they're very high in copper, and my body seems to want to hoard that at all times. So those are the things that were factors in my life, and I do work to, to try to stay in balance. And I'm very aware of what the messages that my body sends me now. So it's really interesting if I'm, deficient in things. I oftentimes might be more tired, and then I'll kind of jump on that right away. And then I address those deficiencies and imbalances. So it's really what I hope for you guys through this process is that you will learn how to be in communication with your own body. Sandra wants to know, please talk about vitamin D. So vitamin D, generally I like to use 5,000 to 10,000 IU per day for people. You do want to make sure you get your vitamin D levels tested, and the target is about 60 to 80 where you want it. That's where I see most of my clients in remission with that number. There's some studies that suggest higher doses of vitamin D, even above like 100. Above measuring at 100 on blood tests, that may be helpful for autoimmunity. that is something that is controversial at this point, and vitamin D can build up in the body, so I always recommend testing for it. Kaya wants to know, is lactose-free milk, or do you need to skip all dairy products? So Kaya, I'm guessing that you're from Europe, because I know in Europe there's this movement towards lactose-free, and I was excited to go to various cafes that were gluten-free and lactose-free. But it's not just the lactose that's a problem in dairy. It's actually lactose is sort of an afterthought. The biggest problem in dairy is actually casein, which is one of the dairy proteins. And then some people actually have an adverse reaction to whey as well. So for me, I actually have a stronger reaction to dairy than I do to gluten. And I have, there's not actually a name for this, but I have the way that people test for celiac on blood tests. I have that blood test in terms of dairy. So I have like the celiac version of dairy sensitivity, and this can be possible for people with thyroid disease, that they may be more sensitive to dairy than they are to gluten. One of the stories, and this is why I love sharing success stories, but one of the stories that really inspired me was a young woman named Crystal who had a blog where she wrote about how she went dairy-free, and that helped her get her Hashimoto's into remission. And I've had a chance to correspond with Crystal a bit, and she was somebody that helped me on my journey, and I ended up getting a guest blog post from her on the Thyroid Pharmacist website as well. And that was really, really exciting for me to share her story, because her story was unique in that she was dairy sensitive primarily. So she didn't even have to, she's been able to go back to eating gluten, and she stays in remission. Whenever she tries to eat dairy, she starts having thyroid antibodies and thyroid symptoms. So this was very, very fascinating, because for some people, and I would say majority, but for some people, the number one issue is dairy. Some people can go back to eating dairy without a problem after they've been off of it for a while. For me, I will probably stay off of gluten and dairy lifelong, and I might even go back to gluten first before I went back to dairy. Melissa wants to know, do the DVD packages ship from within the US? I live in Canada. If I should ship to my US address to avoid paying duty. Also, where did you get the blue sofa? Oh, thanks for asking. So I'll answer the blue sofa question first. There's a company called Comfortable Couch Company, and they make sofas. You pick out a color, and it was quite reasonable, and it's pretty comfortable, but it's not as soft as I thought it would be at first, but it's getting more and more comfortable. So I do think Comfortable Couch Company is a good place to get your couches. And they are pretty clean and non-toxic, so I did check into that. As far as shipping, we are shipping the packages, the gold packages and the silver packages, the physical products are shipping from Illinois. So we have our warehouse there that's shipping everywhere in the world. So that's hopefully will help you determine whether or not you should ship to a U.S. address if you have it. I apologize, I'm not familiar with the various tariff and importation taxes. I know when I lived in the Netherlands, my sister-in-law sent me a gift and I had to pay a tax on it. So, hopefully that answers your question. But we do ship everywhere in the world, but we don't know what specific rules the countries have as far as making you pay taxes on it. Judy says, my sister has been suffering for years and I just sent her the cold package. Mother suffered many years and was never diagnosed. This affected all my family members and now we have it, but because of you, there's hope. Bless you. Thank you so much. That really just touched me. And then what a great idea to send the package or the DVD set to a friend or a family member as a gift. I know one of the ladies I met through recording her story, she was saying that somebody just sent her a copy of my book in the mail, and that helped her recover her health. And it was like this really nice gesture. I know sometimes people who struggle, and I've definitely been one of them, they look for signs, right? So they're like, where's this sign? Where's the sign? And sometimes it's like, if a family member is telling them something, it may not be as valid than if something gets sent to them from a third party. I know my brother would tell me to get off of sugar for a really, really long time, and I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. You know, you're an engineer, I'm a pharmacist, right? And he was like, yeah, you need to get off of sugar. And so then, of course, I learned it from another scientist, and that was okay. So sometimes that does help to have a neutral third party provide the information, such as a book or a set of DVDs or I don't know if you guys had a chance to see it yet, but we have a giant thyroid encyclopedia. I'm going to grab it here from this shelf. It's heavy. This is my workout for the day. Another gold package comes with this gorgeous, gorgeous book that's over 1,000 pages long that has every single transcript professionally transcribed from every single interview that we did with each patient and each expert. So this is very, very proud of it. It's huge. And then we also have this one. So this comes with both the gold and the silver package. And this is the transcript of all 9 episodes. And this is gorgeous as well. So this is professionally done. We actually had a team of wonderful health coaches that went through and made sure everything was done correctly and transcribed. So we've got, the supplement names are spelled correctly, and different tests, lab tests and things are spelled correctly, because sometimes when you get things transcribed, they make up really, really funny words. I know there was one time somebody was talking about post-traumatic syndrome, and they called it poster Mike syndrome. So yeah, so we actually went through this with a fine tooth to make sure that you guys get the right information for you. And then of course, this is the DVD set, and I'm very, very proud of that. You guys will have an opportunity to order that for half off until tomorrow night at 11:59 Eastern time. Let's see here. Dorothy, how does one get off of Nexium? That's such a great question. So one of the ways to do that is you wean off of it, and because you don't want to just stop it suddenly, because you can get rebound acid reflux. And one of the things I found to be helpful is to use another medication like Pepcid as you wean off of it, because Pepcid is not something that causes rebound acid reflux. And so basically what you do is you switch off your Nexium for Pepcid over the course of a couple of weeks, and then you alternate the Pepcid dosing every other day. And then you can also pair that with things like mastic gum or DGL to help support your gut naturally. Carolyn, do you recommend 23andMe DNA testing? Yes, I do. Just as a caveat, you guys, I want to let you know I was chatting with somebody earlier today, and she had gotten her genetic testing analysis, and she was very, very concerned about the testing results, because when you get the analysis, it says, you're at higher risk for that, this gene means this gene means that. And just so you guys know, genes are not your destiny. And let me say that again, genes are not your destiny. And a lot of times these genes are kind of like minute little traces in the literature that have been found. So if you have this gene and it says that it's associated with cancer, sometimes it's like this cancer has a 0.00005% higher rate in people with this gene. So it's not like a destiny. And another thing too is it's about gene expression. And so we don't necessarily know that the genes are expressed every single time. And one of the things you can do is make sure that you're mindful of your environment. Your gut health is one of those most important things, making sure that you're not exposed to toxins, and everything that we're talking about within the Thyroid Secret is going to help you to address any kind of, things that you might have out of balance. And whatever I talk about in my Hashimoto's protocol, supporting your liver, adrenals, and gut, this is going to support your way to get healthier and get better health. One example I want to share is with my one of the gene evaluations I had done is it said that I have, both from my dad's side and my mom's side, really high rates of obesity. Everybody in my family looks like greyhounds, aka, or the only time that we gain weight, we look like spiders because we gain it all in our bellies. And so this is something that it was just one of those things where it was like, okay, the genes say I have a really high rate of this in my family, but I don't. So it's just all about the environment. The genes are only a portion of the story. Rush says, it's great that you acknowledge that everyone with Hashimoto's has different food sensitivities, lest we unnecessarily adopt avoiding them all and developing orthorexia. Thanks so much for saying that. It's like such an important thing to talk about. I've never had an eating disorder or I've never had like binge eating disorders or anorexia or, that was never a part of my journey. And they say like, okay, only people with these kind of history of eating disorders are at risk for this. But I actually developed orthorexia when I was doing the GAPS diet. And so I was, it was a pretty tough time. My husband and I were traveling for my sister-in-law's wedding in Canada, and my skin was gray. I was losing hair. I had these bald spots. I was really, really skinny. I was having breakouts, and I was, like my husband, I was like trying so hard to be healthy, and I was like not eating gluten at the wedding and just doing everything like the GAPS diet and bringing my own food. And my husband was like, what's wrong with you? Just eat a cheeseburger. Like, this clearly is not working for you. And it wasn't, but I was like, no, this is the protocol and it's going to work for me. But I didn't realize that I had my unique kind of sensitivities. So for me, nuts were a no-no. And the GAPS diet, the way that I was eating like almond flour for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and all these almond flour things and muffins. And that was causing me to accumulate more copper, because my body tends to hoard that. And so it's really, really important for me, for you guys, my number one goal would be that you get in like communication and understanding with your body, because when you have acid reflux, when you have diarrhea, and you have all these things going on, that's actually your body sending you a message saying, hey, I don't like what you're eating, or it's saying, hey, there's something inside of me that's not working. So toxins or infections or food sensitivities or nutrient deficiencies, all these things could be causing you to have quote unquote symptoms or antibodies. And it's a way of kind of tuning in and listening to your body. Let's see some questions, great questions coming up. How do you get rid of H. pylori? So there's an antibiotic protocol you could follow, and I actually have a blog on thyroidpharmacist.com, and I have protocols in Hashimoto's protocol, as you might have guessed, for various infections, for getting rid of mercury, for getting rid of H. pylori, for getting rid of SIBO, for getting ferritin levels up, all those wonderful things. One of them for H. pylori is going to be mastic gum. So this is something that can be, it's an herbal remedy with DGL, can be very helpful. And this one, you guys are going to laugh, but cabbage juice. So juicing 4 ounces of cabbage juice, and you could mix it with whatever you want to, make it taste a little bit differently. That can be helpful for overcoming H. pylori. This is about a 2-month protocol, and you could also do triple antibiotic therapy, though that can be really rough on the gut. So I don't really recommend that unless you're having like acute like ulcer symptoms, because there's subclinical H. pylori infections where you just have a little bit of symptoms, or even silent H. pylori infections that are just causing you to have thyroid antibodies and attack on your thyroid. Let's see. Sangeeta wants to know, how long were you on anxiety meds and how did you wean yourself off? So I wasn't taking daily anxiety medications, but I had a prescription for lorazepam Ativan as needed. And I didn't take it on a daily basis because I was concerned, as you guys may know, that medication can be habit forming. And in the pharmacy, I unfortunately saw some people who became addicted to it. So I only used it sparingly, and I didn't use it long term. But it is something, definitely if you are on anxiety medications, I would recommend working with somebody to wean off of them, especially the benzodiazepines, because you can have withdrawal symptoms that can be dangerous. So you do want to wean off of them. Let's see. How do you test for that dairy? So there's a test called Test lab that I found really helpful for dairy testing. If you guys look up food sensitivities on thyroidpharmacist.com, you could find that. And then they do IgA testing for various dairy proteins, and that's what came up positive for me. Joanna, nice to see you. Cześć. Joanna's from Chicago is saying hello. She was positive for yeast. Yeast can be a trigger for thyroid disease, and so doing some yeast protocols can be very helpful. So we're talking about yeast, and as you might have guessed, I do have yeast protocols in Hashimoto's protocol as well. So this book is basically based on protocols. What diet is good for healing leaky gut and candida? So AIP can be very good. Stacy says in Canada, if you mark it as a gift, there's no duty. Is raw and the same as pasteurized? Paul, this is a very common question, so people want to know, like, is raw dairy okay? And then I also get, is goat's milk okay? Is 8-1 dairy okay? Is lactose-free milk okay? And this is a very common question, and here's the deal. If you're going to be sensitive to the casein protein, whether that's in raw milk, pasteurized milk, A1 milk, goat milk, sheep milk, you're still going to cross-react. So it's similar enough in all of these products where if you're reactive to one, you'll be reactive to the other. 80% of the time. Rebecca says, kudos to you. What a great informative docuseries. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Rachel says, do you eat other grains, rice, corn, etc.? Hoping I could add those back in eventually. I miss Mexican food. Yeah, so once I was able to eradicate the blastocystis hominis, which is a protozoan parasite, I do talk about it in the documentary series. I have it on my blog and in Hashimoto's protocol. I was able to, basically I was no longer grain sensitive after that. I used to be very sensitive to a lot of foods, and eradicating that pathogen helped me tolerate foods. I had some rice today. I don't have a problem with those foods anymore. I don't eat them all the time though. I eat mostly paleo at home when I'm here. When I'm travel, I'm usually pretty, liberal with what I eat, but I'm still gluten-free and dairy-free. Elizabeth, do functional medicine doctors prescribe medicine and run lab work? That depends on their degree, because functional medicine doctors could be doctors of oriental medicine, doctors of acupuncture, doctors of pharmacy, doctors of naturopathy, doctors of chiropractic, medical doctors, and then the medical doctors are the ones that are going to be able to prescribe, as well as nurse practitioners, DOs, PAs, and in some states, NDs or naturopathic doctors can also prescribe. So it's kind of odd. It varies on the states. So I hope that helps. Insights with adrenal fatigue and Hashimoto's. Katie wants to know, I really like the Adrenal Reset Diet by Dr. Alan Christensen. That's a really great book. And then there's also Adrenal Thyroid Connection that just came out by Aviva Ram. That's a wonderful book as well. Both Dr. Alan Christensen and Aviva Ram were in episode 6. If you guys do get the series, I highly suggest that you watch that episode a few times, because it's full of aha moments. And then also, I spent like 3 hours in Dr. Christensen's clinic just grilling him on like everything related to adrenals, thyroidectomy, thyroid cancer, Graves' disease, Hashimoto's. And so you guys, if you get the gold package, you'll have access to his full interview, as well as Dr. Aviva Ram's full interview. Just in full disclosure, some of the camera stuff went out for a segment of her interview, but it's all on audio and it's all transcribed. So that's going to be in there for you guys within the gold package. Heidi says, was it your primary physician that guided you to the other specialists for the infections you had in your gut? No. No, these were tests that I ordered on my own, that I found through, BioHealth Lab offers a wonderful test. GI Map offers a wonderful test for gut infections. And I actually had like 4 or 5 tests for this before I found one that was effective and positive. And Biohealth Lab, 401H, GI Map, and then GI Effects are some of the best tests in the industry. If you guys go to thyroidpharmacist.com, we have some self-ordering options for you guys there. Heidi, how did you select patients for this series? Oh, thanks for asking. It was really a fun process. One of the things we did is we sent out an email to people that were in the community, in my Thyroid Pharmacist community. If you guys want to sign up for that, thyroidpharmacist.com/gift. The people on my email list are oftentimes the first in the know for exciting things happening. And also on my Instagram account, that's where I kind of sneak things in. That is kind of a testing ground for things before it gets on Facebook and makes history for forever. This is going to be a great place for you guys to go. So thyroidpharmacist.com gift to subscribe. And I sent out a message asking people to submit their stories, or if they wanted to meet me in Colorado or Chicago or San Diego or New York to record their stories, which were some of the cities I was going to. And then we also asked some of the practitioners if they had any patient stories they wanted to share too, just so that we could, I really wanted to highlight a variety of backgrounds, cities, kind of a variety of root causes and stories to give you guys a little bit of perspective and help you see yourself in that. So I hope that was helpful. Melissa says, I learned from that depression medication did not work. I went to a family therapist instead and used animal therapy. Dogs help with depression, cats help with stress, horses and fish help with PTSD. I love that. Yeah. I don't know if you guys know about this, but I'm like a huge animal lover. So I don't have a pet. I have like a little family member. He's right here with me, actually taking a nap. Usually he's in the office with me. Sometimes he makes noise, but we had he's being really good and being very quiet. Cindy wants to know, it froze during the explanation of each book. What was it about? Let me go through this. The Hashimoto's Root Cause. This is the book that I wrote based on my own journey and research I did to recover my health. And this is available on Amazon. If you guys, it's a New York Times bestseller, so it's got over 1,600 reviews of people who have used it to take back their health, which I'm very, very proud of. So it was an accidental bestseller. I never had written a book before. I don't think I'd even written a blog. I just wanted to get this information out there and help people with what helped me. And this book is Hashimoto's Protocol. This is based on my work with over 1,000 people with Hashimoto's. And this goes through some of the most helpful protocols. So fundamental protocols that everybody needs to do regardless of their root cause, supporting the liver, adrenals, and gut, and advanced protocols. So for example, when you have H. pylori, what do you need to do? When you have this parasite, what do you need to do? When you have yeast overgrowth, what do you do for that? And when you have, this nutrient deficiency, how do you properly supplement? And then the other books, this is the transcript book that's coming with the Thyroid Secret. So you could order that through the packages link in this description. And this is transcript of all 9 episodes. So you can read and highlight and go through it. This is also available in digital format. And the mother of all thyroid books, this is the Thyroid Secret, full transcripts of every single interview that I did throughout the series. It includes over 100 experts, my interview as well as the patient's interviews. So this is definitely for the advanced health seeker. So if you're somebody that wants to know everything and doesn't want to miss a thing, this is the thing to get. And this comes with the gold package, either mailed to you, be forewarned, it is quite heavy, or you could get it in digital format where it's PDF that you can view and download and print off if you so choose. Laura, can you talk about the good supplement brands? So definitely there's great supplement brands. One of the ones I like is Pure Encapsulations. I love Designs for Health, Douglas Labs, Wobenzyme. I just created a formulation called Rootcology. If you guys go to thyroidpharmacist.com/supplements, or just go to thyroidpharmacist.com and look at the supplements tab. I explain how to look for good supplements and then share with you guys the ones that are my preferential ones. You want to be gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free for all of your supplements. What about low-dose daily antibiotics forever to keep infections away? You know, some people have seen benefit with doxycycline, using it as a low dose, kind of to modulate some of the infections and keep them at bay. And I cover this in Hashimoto's The Root Cause as well as Hashimoto's Protocol. And then there's also some people that have benefited from the use of antiviral medications to keep some of the viral infections suppressed and at bay. This is one option. It's not the only option. Some people do find it helpful. Sherry, I have a friend that's been fighting this disease but doesn't eat meat. Is this the problem? So yeah, you know, unfortunately, and I just had a couple of nutritionist friends over last night, Leah and Ely, and from episode, she was in one of the episodes, I can't quite remember which one, and then Debbie Steinbach, who was another nutritionist that was in the episodes, and they were, I think they were featured in quite a few actually. I think, yeah, Leanne was in today's episode. And we were talking about basically their experience and my experience with people who are on a vegan and vegetarian diet. And with thyroid disease, oftentimes, you know, we have nutrient deficiencies and we're depleted. So being on a vegan vegetarian diet can actually make you worse and can help you make your body in a breakdown state. So I will often recommend people who are willing to eat meat and they feel better. And then some people that are not able to, you know, that are not willing to switch their diets, that oftentimes we see that they continue suffering. Some of the things that may help might be things like B12, zinc, L-glutamine, those kinds of things, and iron supplements to help address some of the imbalances and nutrient deficiencies, but still I see people struggling. To this day, I have collected over 500 success stories of people who have recovered their health, and none of them are vegans. I have had a couple of people that reached out to me with saying that they did recover their health on a vegan diet, but I haven't been able to get them to write up their story. So this is something that we're working on. Majority of them, though, are going to be people that have done the paleo diet. All right. Thank you. Lisa, is H. pylori bad? Yes, H. pylori can trigger thyroid disease, among other things, and if you find it, you should eradicate it. Jennifer, what protozoa? Blastocystis hominis. Do you think applied kinesiology can work to find allergies? I think it depends on the kinesiologist. I have seen some surprising results. My scientific mind has a hard time believing it, but there are people that swear by it. And, you know, I think it definitely, if I did it for you, I probably wouldn't be able to find any allergies, but who am I to say that somebody else might not be trained in it properly? That's one of the trainings that I think I'd like to do at some point. And at that point, I'll be able to tell you guys more. Naltrexone, lifelong or short time? So that can be something that's taken short-term to rebalance you, and then also long-term. It's used for cancers to keep the immune system at bay and preventative. I'm personally thinking about taking it long-term to prevent postpartum thyroid issues because it can help women get pregnant, and it can help have a healthy pregnancy and prevent postpartum thyroid issues. And I'm thinking about taking, I'm not presently taking it, but I'm actually thinking about specifically taking it to help with the postpartum and fertility period, just in case, you know, ladies, we do know that when we get pregnant and have babies, we can become quite depleted. And so my goal is to basically do whatever I can in my power to make sure that I have a you know, healthy pregnancy and healthy postpartum period and a healthy as possible baby. So that's going to be a preventative. All right, so let's see, questions. My daughter has celiac. Is she going to be at risk for thyroid dysfunction? Yes. So anybody with one thyroid condition has the potential to, sorry, anybody with one autoimmune condition can have additional autoimmune conditions. And this is very, very common. So if celiac, there's going to be much higher chances of her having Hashimoto's. And then Robert wanted to know, does the silver package include lifetime access or only 1 year access? So we give you access to everything, and then you can download it to your computer, and we don't plan on turning off the portal or kicking you out after a year or anything like that. So it is, lifetime access, but for credit card billing purposes, they don't want us to say that, so we have to say 1 year. Otherwise, they don't want to process the credit card. It looks like the video is keeping keeping freezing, so probably we'll want to wrap up soon. Heidi or Kathleen wants to know, do animal allergies go away when thyroid is treated? I'm sensitive to cats and dogs. So Megaspore, one of the treatments we discussed in episode 8, can be helpful for that. All right. So thank you so much, you guys, for dialing in. It was so wonderful to hang out with you. Such a pleasure to be here with you. Again, if you wanted to watch today's episode, go to the link in the description, tinyurl.com, TTSE9. And if you wanted to check out the packages, tinyurl.com, TTS Gold. And I also have a link here for you guys. Again, the packages are half off until tomorrow, and I appreciate you guys showing your support by owning the Thyroid Secret or getting it as a gift for a loved one. I know that they'll be super grateful once they receive this beautiful package of healing information in the mail from you. And with every gold package, I am giving away a copy of Hashimoto's Protocol, my new book that's coming out on March 28th, filled with helpful protocols to help you take control of your health. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to miss hanging out with you guys. And definitely let me know if you have ideas for topics for Facebook Lives. I will be back hopefully next week. So make sure that you keep up with this page and like a lot of our stuff, because then you'll get notified about everything that anytime that I go live. So you have to have engagement with my Facebook page in order to basically get a message when I come on live. So thank you so much, you guys. Really, really love hanging out with you, and really love the positivity and all of the action you're taking, and you guys being a part of this community and helping other people, answering their questions. It's just such a gift to be a part of this community. I really feel like healing happens with community, and I know that if other people with thyroid disease hadn't shared their stories, I would have been discouraged. So I hope to see thousands of success stories from each and every single one of you that recover your health. And, like I said, cheers to a bright future. And this is not the end. This is just the beginning. Make sure that you tune into tonight's episode, and we're airing it till tomorrow it ends at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then you'll have just a few more hours after that to take advantage of our special deal. Thank you so